Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skipout, and this is Top 5 Weekly, where myself and my panelists, we run down our top 5 films based on a given topic, whether it be director or actor or actress, or in this case, film noir. This is the last episode in a special month-long appreciation of classic films. We start out with Alfred Hitchcock, then we went to Humphrey Bogart, and then Audrey Hepburn, and this one is the genre. This is it. We decided to go with film noir as a classic genre of films to talk about. And so I have two gentlemen here you may recognize who have been frequent collaborators on the Top 5 Weekly for a year. That's right, an entire year. These guys have been working with me on this show, and I cannot thank them enough. They have been unbelievable collaborators on the Top 5 Weekly. And I just want to introduce them right now. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, we are finally getting to one of my favorite things, and that is the film noir. Not quite a genre, maybe it's a genre, depending on who you talk to. But yeah, this is something that is near and dear to my heart. And I'm glad we're kind of ending this whole 4-week run of classic stuff with one of my favorite classic things. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting list of stuff. Hopefully not a lot of overlap, but there probably will be. It's inevitable on this channel. And I'm glad that the three of us here are back once again, reunited to talk about movies and whatever, because you know things tend to go crazy on here.
And it's usually because of Mr. Stephen Billings that things go crazy. He brings the crazy to the party.
Yeah. The prodigal son has returned.
Champ is here.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm with Andrew. Film noir, my favorite. It's probably my favorite subject. A lot of my favorite films are connected to this genre, movement, whatever you want to call it. I would say it's a genre because they still make these movies today when they want to. So yeah, sure, it's of its time, but you still got guys like Shane Black making these type of movies just for modern context. So it's more of a genre to me. But yeah, I'm excited. I hope we all have a lot of different types of movies to talk about because there's a lot of good movies in this genre. So let's do it.
We will get started right now. Andrew, you know what? Since Andrew, you've been on the last 3 episodes and Steven has not been on, we'll let him start first.
I'm devastated by this betrayal.
It's betrayal, yeah. All right. Well, starting with my number 5, this one was this whole list was difficult for me because I'll go ahead and say at the beginning, I decided to go with an eclectic mix. There's a lot of films that, if I was making a top list, if these were my top film noirs, I would put these other movies on the list. But I wanted to go with an eclectic one, kind of show a range of film noir, not all the standard film noirs by what most people would define it as being movies that are in black and white and they're all always detective stories, and they're not always like that. Some of them are a little bit different. This one's kind of more a prototypical one. It is to me one of the kind of the base ones that kind of really got us into film noir, and that is 1946, The Killers. There's also a 64 version that was remade by Don Siegel, but this one's by Robert Soidmak, and it's got Burt Lancaster's in it. This was actually kind of his first movie. That really was his first kind of big role, and basically, it's about a heist gone wrong, which is something you see a lot in these type of in film noirs and in these early black and white movies, where you got the movie and it takes a lot of its story and it does it in flashback, which is another trope of film noir. And this movie starts out with these 2 hitmen that come to find this guy, and they take him out, and then from there, this insurance claims guy wants to figure out what's gone on, so he goes to look into it and starts to figure out why this guy was killed through flashback and through stories from other people. and it's a really good movie. It's really aged really well, and like I said, it's been remade, so obviously somebody's really connected to the story. And it's one that I really enjoyed. I rewatched it, and it's really good. And it's like I have right here, the Criterion. Get it on Criterion. Really good restoration. It's got some cool special features on there. The Killers, 1946. My number 5.
Film I never seen before. I'm definitely going to search that film out, Stephen. I have not seen it, and I've been trying to catch up and watch a bunch of film noir films. I must have missed that one. I really wish I had seen it. It seems like it would be a really good film. All right, Andrew, what is your number 5?
My number 5, but before I get into it, I kind of went a little eclectic myself. I mean, a couple of film noirs I talked about last week that I didn't think I need to talk about again. But so I went with a more kind of personal favorites list, a little out of the box stuff. But my number 5 is probably the most out of the box, and that is Touch of Evil, which came out in 1958, directed by one of my favorites of all time, and that is the great Orson Welles. And this film is the film that is considered to end the classic era of film noir, the period from about 1941 to 1958. The film is such an interesting amalgamation of surrealism and film noir and so many different things. Essentially, the plot is that there's an opening tracking shot of the movie, and a bomb is set off, and there's a killing that happens. And the whole film, people are trying to figure out what happened, who did it, and it's all about like police corruption and political corruption and a lot of perverse things. And it really takes the whole film noir genre and really puts it on its head. It's an extraordinary film that I think a lot of people haven't seen but have heard about. For any of you who are interested in seeing it, watch the restored version of the film. Initially, when this film first came out, when it was first made, Universal had no idea what this film was, because Orson Welles was so far beyond his time that the studio system couldn't figure out his movies or couldn't understand them. So they decided to recut it the way they wanted it to be cut. And the thing is with Orson Welles is that when you recut his movies the way you want them to be, they don't make any sense. So you have to do it the way he wants it in order for it to make sense, because it's all in his head. So the restored cut inserts a lot of the original scenes that he wanted in the movie. It's a longer cut of the film. This was a whole kind of restorative thing that they did in the 90s. A bunch of people were behind it, like Peter Bogdanovich, and I think Walter Murch, the famous editor Walter Murch, supervised the re-editing of this movie for it to make sense. And yeah, it's one of my favorites of all time. It's a weird film where you have Charlton Heston playing a Mexican politician. That in and of itself must get you to watch this movie, because he doesn't really try to do a Mexican accent at all, and for obvious reasons, because it would have been hilarious to see that happen on screen. But yeah, this film is one of my favorites. It also stars Janet Leigh. Orson Welles plays police captain Hank Quinlan, which is just great role. And I love this film. It's one of the films that really got me invested in film noir and classic movies.
Yeah, I actually watched that film this week, and I'm gonna have to agree with you on one point, Andrew. I had no idea what the hell was going on in this film. This film was I don't know what the hell I was watching. And Orson Welles, I mean, I thought he was, I mean, he needed to put someone else in that role, because I was like, what the hell are you doing in this movie?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so absurdly crazy that it's almost amazing.
I don't know. I just don't understand. This movie made no sense to me. Some of the dialogue from a bunch of these characters, I'm like, what the heck kind of stuff are you saying, people? I did not like this movie at all. I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm glad you liked it.
I love it.
Maybe I need to see the recut version.
Yeah, what's the restored version? Yeah, because there's like a 90-minute cut that makes no sense.
Yeah, I was like, I watched it off of Turner Classic Movies. So if that's the version I was watching, then that's probably why I had no idea what the heck was going on in this movie. I did not like the filmmaking style whatsoever. I was like, come on, man, what the heck is going on in this movie?
That's my dog barking.
That's Brady. That's Brady. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I was looking forward to it because I had heard good things about it, but I didn't like it at all.
All right.
My number 5 is the film that you guys inspired me to watch, and that is based on our series of videos, the 52 must-see movies and why they matter. It's called The Third Man, and I'll tell you what. It stars Joseph Cotten. It came out in 1949. It stars Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles. Now, Orson Welles, obviously, you guys have already talked about this film, so you guys know everything about this film. Orson Welles didn't show up till about the last third of the film, and you know I guess the whole movie they think that he's dead. His character of God, can't think of the guy's name now. I have Orson Welles. What's the name of the character again?
He plays Harry Lime.
Harry Lime. That's right. That he died at the beginning of the film, and there's this whole mystery around trying to find out what happened to Harry Lime. And of course, he's not dead; he's alive, and he's got this whole scam going with penicillin and all this stuff. And we also have it's directed by this guy named Carol Reed. I actually enjoyed it. This is a Orson Welles film I liked, whereas Touch of Evil I did not like. This I felt like, and it had a great chase scene towards the end of the film through these catacombs and stuff. I liked the Third Man. I really enjoyed it, and that's why I put it on my list. And it's got some great film noir stuff going on in here with a lot of the stuff takes place at night and in the shadow and stuff like that. In this scene, the very first scene with Orson Welles, you see a light blink and you see his face, then the light blink again and he's gone. So that was kind of some neat stuff they did with him. Obviously, Orson Welles made The Third Man. He's in The Third Man. I'm saying he didn't direct The Third Man. I got another film where he directed the film. I'm sorry, I'm getting my Orson Welles mixed up here.
It looks like he directed the movie.
Yeah,
I think that's
it did look like he directed it. But I got another film that he directed that. But that's my number 5, The Third Man. And thanks to you guys, I wouldn't have watched it if you guys didn't talk about it. So going back to Steven, number 4.
My number 4. This was one that is probably going to be the most debatable on my list. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it really isn't, I guess. But it kind of delves into multiple genres. It kind of goes a little bit into the horror, thriller kind of areas. But if you look it up on the Criterion Collection, it's in the noir section, so it counts, guys. And that is Diabolique. You got Henry Clouseau. You got Henry George Clouseau. This film is very much inspired Hitchcock's Psycho, and it's about this boarding school, and you have the people that own it, and the guy has a mistress and his wife, and they both plan to kill him. And when they apparently kill him and throw him in the pool, he somehow goes missing for some reason. How did a dead man go missing? That's where our mystery goes on. And that's where the film noir aspect is there with that. And, of course, with the directing and the shadows, and has one of the greatest endings of any film I've ever seen. And it's very creepy. I don't want to give it away. I'll let you watch it, but it's a movie when this was a rewatch for me, watching it again, and it's an engaging film. And the acting and the direction is it's top notch. And I can see why Hitchcock took this film as a challenge in a way, because it was so good. Look at that cover art, man. It's badass. But once again, another Criterion Collection. Check it out. Diabolique, French film.
Andrew, what is your number 4?
My number 4 is a film we've also already talked about on the 52 must-see movies, and that is Out of the Past, starring Robert Mitchum, one of my favorite actors of all time. I think one of the most underrated actors of all time. Steven and I had a great discussion about this film, so you should definitely check it out on that film series. But this film is, I think, one of the quintessential film noirs. You know, it's about kind of just low down, not good people. Kirk Douglas is in the film. He plays this kind of businessman gangster. He runs like gambling gambling establishments and stuff like that. He's not a good guy, and he enlists the Robert Mitchum character into finding his girlfriend, who has actually shot at him and is now on the run and has stolen some money from him, and she's escaped apparently down to South America or wherever, and the Robert Mitchum character meets up with her, and they end up having a romance together, a bit of an affair, all behind the back of this Kirk Douglas character. But the film is about much more than that. There's the whole film is told in flashback. Initially, the Robert Mitchum character has gotten out of this life, and he is now drawn back in it, and that is where we see the framing of the past come into this movie, and kind of where the title of the film plays into it, Out of the Past. You know, your past coming back to haunt you, and you can never really escape it and stuff like that. It's a great film. It is directed by Jacques Tourneur. He did a lot of these kind of darker films back in the 1940s. He's not a well-known director. He's probably more well known for directing this, as well as the original Cat People movie, which is another dark movie. But yeah, if you really want to get more take on that, check out the video me and Steven did.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the film. I have not seen it yet. I definitely am interested in Out of the Past, but I did enjoy you guys' video about the film. That's one of the reasons why I was, I'm like, oh, I want to see this film. These guys are really excited about this. So definitely. All right, my number 4 is a film that came out in 1947, and it stars Robert Montgomery and directed by Robert Montgomery, and also stars Audrey Totter. And Robert Montgomery plays a famous detective in the film called Philip Marlowe. And the name of the film is The Lady in the Lake. I'll tell you what, I really enjoyed this film, and it's got a lot of things going on in it, and you having certain people kill people, and then those people are actually alive and they're out killing people, and you got women killing people, you got detectives killing people, you got you got a lot of stuff going on. The Philip Marlowe character, played by Robert Montgomery, he's got to try to figure all this out, and it's got a really good way of doing it. It's like you're the Philip Marlowe character, like the camera is you watching the film, and you're the Philip Marlowe. You hear him talking. Sometimes you'll see his hands. They put handcuffs on his hands or something like that, but it's from the point of view of the person watching the film. And that's what was really fascinating about this film for me. It's a film noir where the person watching the film, it could be anybody, is literally in the film. You're the Philip Marlowe character, basically. You're going through this film and trying to figure out what's going on with the Philip Marlowe character of Robert Montgomery. And I really enjoyed it. I was like pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect this. When I watched The Lady in the Lake, I was like, wow. I don't think I've ever seen a film where it's from the perspective of the person watching the film. And this is the first time I ever seen Lady in the Lake, and I really, really enjoyed this film. And I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but I liked it a lot. Neither one of you seen Lady in the Lake, huh? Wow, that's interesting. So I saw a movie, and I put a movie on my list that you guys haven't even seen.
You chose a super obscure one, Dan.
Did I really?
It sounds like one.
Well, now you guys can go out and see if you can watch it and see if you agree with me. All right, so back to Steven for number 3.
All right, so my number 3 is one that's this is a film that's probably, I would say, maybe the biggest movie on my list in the sense of the name recognition. People know this movie. This is a Best Picture winner. It's also one of the biggest directors of that time, and that is let's see here. Wait a second. I'm sorry. What's the year did it come out? It came out in 1946, and it is The Lost Weekend, directed by Billy Wilder, who is probably one of the biggest directors of this time, with Double Indemnity, Sunset Boulevard, a lot of great film noir type of movies. And The Lost Weekend is about, it just kind of just focuses on this man who is dealing with alcoholism. And the whole movie, he, at the beginning of the movie, his friends are his brother and his girlfriend are trying to get him clean. He's trying to get him away from alcohol, and he's keeps finding ways to get away from him to get drinks. And throughout the movie, he's at a bar or he's somewhere and he's sitting down, he's talking to somebody about his life and about how it used to be good, but then he's just turned into this drunk, and just it's just a very interesting movie, very engaging movie. The I think it's Ray Milland is the lead actor, and he was in Dial M for Murder. He's really good in this movie. I think he won the Best Actor award that year for this movie. It's just a really engaging film, a very good character study movie. And it, like I said, it's a different type of film noir. It's a movie about obsession, which is one of them tropes of film noir that's thrown in a lot over and over again. And his obsession with alcohol, and it's very, very great film, and it deserved the Best Oscar nomination of its year. So my number 3 is The Lost Weekend.
Another film I have not seen, but I'm looking forward to see it eventually. Andrew, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is kind of a very big name film as well. I think it's gotten more appreciated as the years have gone on, since it came out way back in 1957, and it's now considered one of the best movies of all time by some, and that is Sweet Smell of Success. This film is very much an essential film for classic fan film viewing. It's directed by Alexander McKendrick, who actually didn't go on to great fame or a notoriety at all. And I think now he's actually like an English college professor or something like that. He's never really is a big name guy like Stephen just mentioned in Billy Wilder or Orson Welles or anyone like that. But his film, Sweet Smell of Success, is considered to be just fantastic, and it is fantastic. It stars Burt Lancaster and Tony Curtis, and the film is essentially about this guy who's this Broadway columnist named J.J. Hunsaker, portrayed by Burt Lancaster, who's kind of this not nice guy. He's kind of a big mover and shaker when it comes to the press and stuff like that. Like, he can basically make or break a story, or he could, fictionalize a story for certain reasons or something like that. So he's a big, powerful guy when it comes to the media. And he enlists the Tony Curtis character to break up a romance between his sister and a jazz musician, because he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that particular person. He doesn't want him involved in his sister's life. And it's this whole kind of interplay of character relationships and stuff like that. And this film is all set during one night, so the night itself kind of is very immersive about the film. And as the film goes on, the Tony Curtis character just gets deeper and deeper involved into this film, and he gets deeper and deeper involved into some trouble. And it's a really great film. It's a great screenplay. I know a lot of people study this film in film courses all around the world, and I highly recommend people checking it out. It is also available, as Stephen has mentioned twice already, on the Criterion Collection. It's available on DVD. It's available on Blu-ray. Just watch this film and really just relish in how great it is. You know, it's kind of one that, like I said, doesn't have a big name director attached to it, but it's fantastic.
Another film I have not seen, but I'm up to watching new films that I have not seen. I've been doing a lot of that lately. and I can't wait to see some of these films you guys have been talking about. My number 3 is, I alluded to it before, a film directed by Orson Welles and starring Orson Welles. Another film which I felt like Orson Welles was much more better cast in than Touch of Evil. He's also acting opposite Edward G. Robinson, and it's called The Stranger, and it came out in 1946. And this old guy comes into this sleepy little town. The stranger. This old guy comes into this sleepy little town, and everybody's fine. And Orson Welles plays a character who's like a kind of like a professor, but he's got like a penchant for clocks, and he's got a wife, and they're all happy. And all of a sudden, he sees this old guy, and this old guy recognizes him from his other life. And so, would you know it, he has to say, oh, can't have anybody in this my little sleepy town that I live in recognize me, so I'm going to have to off this guy. Then Edward G. Robinson comes into the picture, and he's like a Nazi hunter. And his job is to come to America and go through these towns and go through these cities and places and try to see if he can sniff out these Nazis that are in hiding. And so he has this whole cat and mouse game with the clock tower involving Orson Welles' character. Really good film. Much better than Touch of Evil, in my opinion.
Oh,
The Stranger, 1946. I really enjoyed this film. All right, going back to Steven with number 2.
All right, so when we decided to do this, we had a criteria, and we decided that even though classic films kind of as Andrew has pointed out off camera, for him, Touch of Evil was the last film noir. And what year does that end, Andrew?
1958.
So yeah, but we decided to use the term classic as in how the amount of time that's passed. And we decided to extend our movies to 1969. So this is the lone 60s film that I have on my list. That's a film noir, and it is Akira Kurosawa's High and Low. And this film, it was a first-time watch for me. I bought it on the last Criterion sale, and this film is awesome. This movie, when you say black and white movie, this movie really is black and white. Like, it's like the cinematography is not a lot of grays. It is black and white. It is but as you watch this movie, as the movie goes on and it gets darker, the movie starts to change its cinematography a little bit, and it starts to get a lot darker. But this movie is very interesting because the movie starts out, and it's very much like the movie Ransom, where somebody gets kidnapped. You got the awesome I'm bad with pronunciations of names, but Mifune Tarasho Fumu. I can't say names. But he's a fantastic actor, been in a lot of films of Kurosawa's, Seven Samurai, and he plays this businessman who is trying to buy this company, and his son is apparently kidnapped, but come to find out, it's actually his driver's son, his driver who drives him around son that gets taken instead. So now the kidnapper wants all this money, and he has the money, but the money was meant to buy his company. And now he's stuck in this situation where he can either lose his job basically or save this kid's life and give all, like, I think it's like $50 million or something like that. And, the movie, it gets past, the thing is the movie could have been that whole situation. But really the movie ends up being more about finding this kidnapper. And it's very suspenseful and very smart, and the acting is superb, the directing's superb, and it's got a great finale. Once again, another really good ending with how they track down this killer, and I can't wait to watch it again. It is a 2.5-hour movie, but it doesn't feel like it because it's so engaging and so appealing. And yeah, High and Low, can't recommend it more. It's become a favorite of mine. Definitely a favorite, maybe up there with Seven Samurai with Kurosawa films for me. So High and Low is my number 2.
Another film I have not seen. This is a trend of the show. A lot of films I have not seen, but I'm going to watch them eventually. All right, Andrew, what is your number 2?
Before I get to my number 2, that is a hell of a pick by Steven. High and Low is just incredible. But yeah, my number 2 is a classic of just film noir and film and the whole classic era movie, and that is Sunset Boulevard. Yeah, Sunset Boulevard is a film that I love so much because it's a film noir, but it's also a critique of Hollywood, a very harsh critique of Hollywood, basically of how Hollywood will just use somebody for a time and then just forget about them, get rid of them. We don't need you anymore, and that is all encapsulated in the Norma Desmond character, portrayed by Gloria Swanson, who was herself a star in the silent era of films, but once the Hollywood made the transitions from talkies to, silent to talkies, a lot of those actors and actresses just got kind of left behind. They couldn't make the transition because it was so different. They now had to actually talk on screen and act through speaking dialogue and stuff like that, and they just couldn't do it. So a lot of them were just completely left behind and just forgotten. And that's what Gloria Swanson portrays in this film. But this film is also about the William Holden character, Joe Gillis, who is this screenwriter who works in Hollywood. He actually works at Paramount. Paramount Studios actually makes an appearance in this film. The arches at Paramount are shown. They actually show Cecil B. DeMille making a movie in this film. And it's a really, really fascinating look at Hollywood. And there's also a look of a character of Joe Gillis who has this very dependent relationship with this Gloria Swanson character who just tries to keep him around by buying him things, by buying him new clothes and having him use her car and stuff like that. So it's a character film, it's a genre picture, it's so many different things, and it's just one of the best of its era. It's also a film that is directed by the great Billy Wilder. A lot of people think why this film didn't win Best Picture or win as many Oscars as it did is because it ripped Hollywood a new one, if you will. I always think that William Holden probably should have won a Best Actor a Best Actor Oscar, which he won years later for something else that I can't remember. But yeah, I love this film, and it's one that I highly recommend to people because it's such a classic film. I think a lot of people know. A lot of people know the final shot of this film, Norma Desmond looking into the lights and saying, "I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille," and walking into the frame, walking right at you. It's a very haunting ending to this film. So yeah, it's just like Steven's doing,
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Yeah, another film I have not seen. I know I'm ashamed to say I've not seen Sunset Boulevard. I will see it though very soon. I got that on my checklist of movies to see very soon. I've been wanting to see that very. I just it just.
Well, we're gonna talk about it on the 52 must-see movies and why they matter soon.
Yes, we'll have to watch it.
Well, good. It's just movies. Sometimes things just slip through the cracks, and I've seen a lot of classic films. Obviously, I still have a lot to see, and I want to see movies because I like Steven has said to me before, you need to broaden your horizons. I try to do that. Trust me, I do. I've always tried to do that when it comes.
It's not easy, but it's easier than it has been for a long time because we have all these streaming platforms now, and we have all these, you can rent things online now, affordably. So it's the best time to broaden your horizons. You used to not even have any options. You had the video store, and if you didn't have a video store, you were screwed. So,
pretty much.
My number 2 is a film I was recommended by a friend of mine who really loves classic films. Not a big fan of modern day films, only horror films. But my friend recommended this to me, and I'll tell you, I watched it, and I really, really love this film. It stars basically 2 nobodies. A guy by the name of Richard Basart and a guy by the name of Scott Brady, and it came out in 1948, and it's called He Walked by Night, and it's about a guy who was robbing a store, and it just happened outside the store. There was a police car parked there, so he shoots the police officer and runs away. And so the whole movie is the police are trying to find this guy and find his motivations for shooting this man and what he was doing. And what he was doing was he was taking these like devices, like old radios and old electronic devices, and he was updating them. He was updating them, and he was putting his own little bits and pieces into them and make them a better products. And he was having this guy sell them and stuff. I liked it because the motivation of the Richard Basart character, you know, he wanted to do something. He wanted to be somebody, but he was going about it the wrong way. And he you know, he was in the Navy, and people, you know, people didn't like him in the Navy and so forth. He was kind of like a radio technician in the Navy and whatnot. And so this is his way of saying, you look, I could do something, you know, but he was going about it the wrong way by robbing stores and then, of course, killing a police officer and whatnot. But there was a great chase at the end of the movie, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad my friend recommended it to me because I had never seen it before. And I think it's the movie that stands out without these actors. You know, the actors are people you never heard of, you know, Scott Cody and Richard Basart. I mean, I never heard of these guys. But the movie was really, really good. And that's what was best about it, because you didn't have to have these big-name actors in this film. And it was just a story about the guy and the police trying to figure out his motivations and try to figure out why he was doing what he was doing. So I had He Walked by Night at my number 2. Go back to Steven for number 1.
All right. So before I say my number 1, I want to go ahead and I'm not gonna say a lot on this film, because I want to give I want to say that the only reason I saw this movie, and it is my number 1, is because of Mr. Andrew here, because he introduced me to this film, and I'm going to let him gush about it because it is maybe my favorite film noir film because it is so awesome. And it was awesome to watch this again. I've watched it maybe 4 times since I bought it, and I bought it like maybe 5 months ago. So it's really good. To me, I mean, and it's been written about. It's kind of one of the founding film noir movies. Like, it's one of them the first flux of film noirs coming out. This is one of the big ones. And it came out in 1944, and that is Laura. This movie is just amazing. I love it. You got Jean Tierney, beautiful. This is one of the most beautiful women that doesn't get talked about in classic films. She's just so beautiful. And it's just great. It's about, you got this girl who is there's a murder, and you got all these, you know, you got this detective that comes in, and he's got all these people that are in her life around her that he's investigating. It's a very simple story, but then it's hard to talk about this movie without giving away anything. I just want to say this is one of the best film noirs, and not even film noirs. It's just a great film, and it's definitely one you should check out. I'm gonna let Andrew gush on this. He can probably talk about it better than I can, because I have a feeling this is going to be his number 1 also. Sorry to give it away, but I'm pretty sure it is. So, yeah, Laura, number 1.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my number 1 is Laura. I don't even have to set this one up. It's a film that I saw a few years ago, and I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. This is not only an incredible film noir, it's just an incredible film in general. Yet again, it's a film that doesn't have, I would say, high iconic actors. You know, there's no Humphrey Bogart or Lauren Bacall. We have kind of more under the radar actors in Gene Tierney and Dana Andrews, Clifton Webb. Young Vincent Price is in this film. It's a fantastic film. Like Steven said, it does take place around a murder like a lot of film noirs do. But what is interesting about this murder is that Dana Andrews is the police officer investigating. He's the detective that's investigating it, and he becomes infatuated or in love with this idea of Laura, or who the Laura character was, because Laura was someone who seemingly attracted a lot of people in her life just by being who she was or who people wanted her to be. It's almost like it takes the idea of the femme fatale and subverts it. She is not purposely trying to be a femme fatale, but she is still the leads to a lot of the negativity in all these men around her. It's a really fascinating film with a lot of themes in it. It's about like unrequited love. It's about just love in general, obsessive love.
One of the best endings ever.
One of the best endings ever that is very symbolic. When you see it focuses on a certain thing that is damaged, and why it's damaged is important. It's just fantastic the way it's done, and it's set indoors, it's set at night, so you get that film noir lighting, that very dark, very harsh, feeling of the film noir genre. But it's not traditional film noir in a lot of senses, but it is just fantastic. It's a great film. It is directed by Otto Preminger, who was a director I think a lot of classic film fans are aware of. He directed Exodus. He directed Anatomy of a Murder. He directed a bunch of films. I mean, it goes on, and I think he directed a bunch of other things as well. It's just a great film. I highly recommend checking it out, and also checking out some of the work that a lot of these actors have done in other films, because I think Gene Tierney and Dana Andrews teamed up on a bunch of films, and no one really talks about them anymore.
Leave Her to Heaven.
Yeah, Dana Andrews was in The Best Years of Our Lives. Gene Tierney was in a lot of other like film noirs too, and she's just gorgeously stunning film. She's one of the best femme fatales of all time. If you look at a best femme fatale list, she's up there as one of the best, and she's almost up there by accident, like I said, because she's not purposely trying to do things. It's just the men around her.
She's just so beautiful, you can't help it.
She's like a magnet. She's like a magnet for men, but they all want to use her for different things. None of them want to actually. None of them really care about the real Laura. They all care about this Laura that's in their minds. It's really just a fantastic film. Just watch it. Watch it.
I haven't seen it yet, so that's another film we're gonna have to.
Friend.
If there's one that we've talked about tonight, that's the one, Dan.
Okay. All right. My number one is probably one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and one of my favorite actors of all time. And I just can't happen to come upon this film when I was trying to find some film noir films to watch, and I didn't realize this is a Alfred Hitchcock film starring Henry Fonda, and it came out in 1956, and it stars Henry Fonda and Vera Miles. And it's called The Wrong Man. And The Wrong Man is where this guy, he goes to this bank to check on his insurance policy for his wife, and the bank tellers recognize him, and they call the cops, and the cops come and get him, and they say, hey, dude, these people are saying that you robbed their bank, and we've got like a string of robberies and so they take him along, and they take him to these stores, and all these people are saying that they recognize him for robbing their stores and stuff. And of course, he has to figure out how they recognize him, because he wasn't the one robbing their stores. And so the whole movie is Henry Fonda going through trying to figure out how to do it. And while he's doing this, his wife basically goes crazy. While this is all going on, Vera Miles, his wife, she's kind of losing her mind throughout the film. He's trying to clear his name, and here is his wife is going crazy. Like he's dealing with all this stuff. He's dealing with the police officers, you know, because they think he did it. They're like, "What do you mean you didn't do it? Of course you did. Everybody says you did it. This piece of evidence, you're writing." He writes notes, and the notes in his handwriting are exactly the same as the notes that the police officers have, and all this kind of stuff. And it's a really good film. Of course, we've seen films where a person was accused of something that they didn't do, and they had to go through the entire movie trying to figure out how they got accused of something that they didn't do, and then clear their name. I'm guessing though all those films came off of this film, because this film came out in 1956, so it was quite a long time ago, and it's an Alfred Hitchcock film. It's something that Alfred Hitchcock does. He likes to steer you in the opposite direction. Instead of looking in this direction, he wants you to go in this direction. He's really good at steering you in the opposite direction. But this is a Hitchcock film I had never seen until now. And of course, Henry Fonda. I'm a huge Henry Fonda fan and a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan. So I was very pleasantly surprised when I was able to watch The Wrong Man. And I believe, I'm not sure, either Stephen and Andrew already did The Wrong Man on the 52 must-see movies, or they're going to be doing it.
It's not in the list.
It's not on the list.
Okay. All right.
Although it's a great film.
Yeah. So all right, these guys aren't going to be talking about it, so I was glad I got a chance to see it anyway. But I put The Wrong Man, of all the film noirs that I had a chance to watch and the ones that I remembered, and I really enjoyed this one the most because I felt vindicated for the Henry Fonda character in the end when he was able to clear his name and whatnot. So, and it's based on a true story. This actually happened to this character. I can't think of the name of the guy right now, but this actually happened to him in real life. So this is based on a true story. So this is not a made-up story. So it's interesting that you got a film noir that's based on an actual real story. That was kind of fun to see a true story that Hitchcock was able to spin into a very, very entertaining movie with obviously Vera Miles and Henry Fonda in there. So that is my number one. Steven, you got any honorable mentions?
Shoot, we can go on for a while with honorable mentions, but I'll just name some that we decided not to put on our list. Just like I said, just because we wanted to go in some different directions. Of course, Double Indemnity is one of the greatest. I love that. But Billy Wilder, once again, like Andrew had Sunset Boulevard, another Billy Wilder. And then there's some ones that go in some other directions. Some people consider Citizen Kane a film noir. You could do that. I got a stack of them here. White Heat, could be considered maybe in a way. Like you said, The Third Man, Dark Passage, which I think you guys talked about on the Humphrey Bogart. Maltese Falcon, another great one. I'll leave some to Andrew.
Yeah, there's a lot. We could be here for days doing this. But like Steven said, three major ones: Double Indemnity, Maltese Falcon, The Big Sleep, The Asphalt Jungle, In a Lonely Place, The Big Heat, Gilda. Watch Gilda, because if you haven't seen it, that movie's incredible. I mean, Gun Crazy, The Killing, Stanley Kubrick's The Killing. I mean, we could go on and on for forever. Pick Up on South Street, Mildred Pierce. I mean, there's so many of them. Just do a Google search and you will find lists upon lists of these.
Yeah, you guys named the two that I had on my with Fifi. Really? That's a film noir.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, I had a couple of those. I have on my list In Cold Blood, which is a true story, and it's based on a book by Truman Capote. But the actual movie came out like 75, 80 years ago, and it's really good. It's really a kind of like two movies in one a lot. It's got like the people in prison, then the whole story of them actually killing the people and their motivation, why they kill these people in this farmhouse and whatnot. And it's got a lot of film noir aspects to it. In Cold Blood does. But obviously you might have heard of it from the Capote movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman, that came out in 2005 or 2006, I believe, where he won an Oscar. So, but In Cold Blood is a very good one. Also, I know we were going to the 60s. I think the Boston Strangler was one. It's color. It's not black and white. It's got, once again, it's got Henry Fonda, but it's got Tony Curtis as the Boston Strangler, and that's from pretty much the perspective of the police. And then later in the film, you start seeing the perspective of the killer. But most of the time at the beginning of the film, you see him like through doors or through buzzers. He's talking at the buzzer, and hey, I'm the repairman, whatever. I'm here to fix your water heater or fix your this, and that's how he ends up getting up to these women's houses and killing them, or apartments and killing them. But then later on, he starts getting desperate, and you start seeing him in the film. So the Boston Strangler is a film noir, even though it's in color. So you lose some of the noir aspects of it because of the color. But there are some good film noir films that are in color that we decided to go with the black and white.
They're more like they're what we call neo noirs.
Yeah. Steven's one of Steven's favorite films of all time. L.A. Confidential is probably one of the best ones of all time. If that was in black and white, it'd be considered the greatest noir film of all time, probably. But it was in color, and it came out in the 90s.
I would love it, yes, but I don't know that I would say it's the best. I mean, we talked about a lot of great ones on here tonight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand. There's a lot of great films out there. So that is it for Classics Month. I'm just glad we had a chance, Stephen and Andrew on here for the very last episode of Classics Month. And I thought we really delved into quite a few classic films, quite a few films that we hadn't talked about before. A lot of films I personally hadn't even seen. So I have a list of films that I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna try to go and watch these films, and once I watch them, I'm gonna tell these guys, hey, I saw this. Good job. Appreciate you recommending it. And so, hopefully people watch Top 5 Weekly, and they do get inspired to watch some of the films. And Steven, of course, changed his thing to black and white, which is really cool.
I should have done this at the beginning. I'm sorry.
Good job, Steve. That was cool. That's a great touch. That's a great touch to put on the end of the show here. Steven, where can you be found?
I can be found in some separate universe where I'm stuck in black and white. It's Pleasantville, guys. It's Pleasantville. No, I hope Tobey Maguire doesn't walk in here. That'd be weird. But you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Film Club Central, or Stephen Billings. Typically posting stuff about movies. I don't do anything else.
And Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as my YouTube channel, Capzilla Productions. Yeah, just like Steven, old movies all the time. All the time.
Yeah, and next week is the year anniversary. We're going to do an extravaganza episode next week. I don't know what Steven's doing right there, but I can't tell. We're going to do an extravaganza episode next week. It's the year anniversary of the weekly. So stay tuned for that next week. It's going to be a big episode, and we're going to get a lot in there. Thanks to these guys, we're going to try to get some panelists. We're going to try to get some people in there maybe, and try to get a couple topics that we'll talk about. That'll be fun topics that just to explain how big the year anniversary episode is. But you can find me at Dan Skip Allen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Also, or at From the Fourth Row. Usually sometimes that's my Twitter handle or whatever, my Instagram handle or whatever. So, and if you like what you watched here on this show, you can go to the Best Damn Movie Show YouTube channel, and we post all the episodes of the 52 movies and why they matter, which these guys have been really doing a lot of episodes lately. I'm going to start doing some episodes here pretty soon. And all the Top 5 Weekly episodes going back for the last year, and the last 3 episodes for Classics Month. If you want to go back and see the Classics Month episodes, they're all on there. So for Stephen and Andrew, good night.
Bye-bye.